bringing them up? Oh, okay. March 15th, 2026, in the year of our Lord, we are back with another episode of High Off the Glass. I am happy to be here. Sorry I missed y'all last week. I was tired. I needed to rest. The audience is hyped. They're happy to be here. I'm glad y'all are. We have a special guest today. I have been trying to talk to this brother for a minute. I am so happy that I have this young man on the show. The brother's voice, he sounds a hell of a lot younger than he actually is. And but because every time you hear him, you think for sure this cat about 20, 30 years old. But this is a grown man that be doing grown man stuff, has been doing it for a while, man. Everybody give it up for my favorite Sirius XM former host, Gerald Brown. Everybody give it up for Gerald Brown. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm not a former host. I'm still there.
My bad. That's true. That's true. Former host of the Bottom Line Sports Show, and I'm glad they still have you there, even though they need to have their show back because that show was excellent. How are you, sir?
I can't complain. Give me another option, man. Another option.
I feel you. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Okay, so how I wanted to do this, right? Like I told you, I wanted to interview you, and then we'll get into the basketball stuff because there's a lot of basketball to get into. But I want to learn about you. I want to learn about Gerald Brown. I'm assuming you from born and raised in the city. We call it the city in Springfield, Mass, where I'm from. New York City. Is that your home? Is that what your birthplace?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Harlem,
right on.
New York. Harlem, New York.
Harlem. Oh my goodness, you can't get no better than that. Rest in peace, Big L. That was the man. All right, so born and raised in Harlem, like so. I guess basketball. I kind of feel like it because it was like this with me. Was it injected into your veins at a very early age? Like, I mean, how did it go for you?
Actually, what's interesting is that growing up, it was basketball, but also baseball, man. I really enjoyed baseball.
Okay.
It was something about, just seeing, being able to go past Yankee Stadium and, it was a point in time where I lived in upper Manhattan.
Wow.
And I was able to be able to walk to Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
And be able to go in and about the sixth or seventh inning, they would start, the officers, the police officers, they would let people in and be able to go in there for like maybe $2, $3 or so. They let you in, see the rest of the game.
That's beautiful.
So it was almost like I was a kid in a candy store, but I loved baseball. And then basketball just really consumed me because obviously in, the New York City area, where you have basketball courts, which don't really take up too much space. That's the game of the inner city. So it really grew on me. But I got to say, the first love at one point was baseball.
No doubt. And that's back when Steinbrenner was running it and he spent money, unlike his cheap ass sons. His sons get on my nerves. I don't like how they cater to a conservative right wing haters like Charlie Kirk. I think that led to the Yankees' demise last postseason. Spend some damn money and Giancarlo, can you stay healthy? That's my only question. I'm a Yankee fan myself, Mr. Brown. So
Okay.
I
I know most people from Springfield, Mass, because my ex-wife is from Springfield, Massachusetts.
Nice.
So
Right on.
I
Yep.
know a lot about that Springfield, Mass area, but it's kind of like the tail end of Massachusetts where you're closer to Connecticut,
Yep.
New York, than you are to Boston.
Yep.
So a lot of times the allegiance is to the New York Yankees. I mean, Rick is not that far also.
Right.
Rick Mahorn, so he's also a Yankee fan as well.
Right, Hartford, Connecticut. You repping Hartford, and I get it. And the crazy part is, right? You're right. We're closer to Boston, but we gravitate to like where I'm from, Western Mass. We gravitate towards Connecticut teams and New York teams. We just do. But it's always Celtic first for me. But tell me about your upbringing, bro. Like two-parent household, brothers and sisters. How was that?
Yeah, it was 1.2 parent household. I had a brother, he since passed away,
Sorry to hear
and
that.
a sister. So yeah, just that kind of household and stuff like that, just growing up. And, my parents got divorced pretty much when I was probably about 8, 9 or
Okay.
so, maybe about 10.
Right.
But yeah, at that point in time, just a New York City kid and had an amazing experience, which actually helped me out so many ways. Where walking into a sneaker store, I was with my dad in Harlem, and guy, pretty much was talking to my dad, so and he liked me and said, hey, offer him a job. I was about 14, 15, so I had to work off the books.
Wow.
And I remember working once, I think it was a Saturday or Sunday, it was a Saturday or so, and a lady came in there and, nobody really wanted to help her because she was getting ready to, we were getting ready to close the store up. And so this lady was just, I was a kid and I mean, she was a beautiful black woman. I said, hey, I ain't have nothing to lose. I love helping the ladies,
I
especially
know
when
that's
they're
right.
beautiful like that.
No doubt.
And, she took her time and she didn't know what she wanted, but, she could feel the pressure of people just rushing her on, rushing her on.
Yeah.
And I just basically told her, no, don't worry about that. I helped her as if we had just opened up the store. And this lady basically leaned into me as I was helping her, brought out a couple pairs of sneakers. And she said, you like basketball? I said, yeah, I love it.
Mhm.
And she said, how would you like to work for the New York Knicks? And
What?
I said, yes. And she gave me her business
Oh
card.
my goodness.
And this lady, Leah Wilcox, uh, connected with her and really introduced me to working with the New York Knicks. And she's actually going into the Hall of Fame
What?
this
Springfield?
year. Yes,
What?
yes. Leah Wilcox will be a part of the Basketball Hall of Fame induction
That's
ceremony
outstanding.
in the fall. So yes, Leah
Wow.
Wilcox is still a part of that NBA regime, and she's been again a tremendous joy. And I still stay in contact with her now. So
I
I
know you
always tell
do.
that story about being kind to someone just really opened up a door for me that has given me amazing experiences.
No doubt. You never know. You never know who you're interacting with. That is how old were you when this happened, Gerald? How old were you?
I was probably about 15,
15.
15. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Now I remember you. I remember you on the show saying how you were a Celtic ball boy when you were up in Boston going to school, but then Red got rid of you because he knew you had the New York ties. But you were a
yeah.
Nick ball boy first.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that just again when you're part of the and actually Stefan Bondi, shout out to Stefan Bondi of New York Post did this article on me about this some years ago.
Wow.
So going to school there and the shout out to Mike Saunders, the longtime trainer of the Knicks, got in touch with a guy Ed Lasert, who was the trainer, and Wayne LeBeau, a longtime equipment manager for the Boston Celtics, and I was going to school in the area. And he said, "Hey, you know what? You want to earn some money?" He's a great young man. Basically got me the job working for the Celtics. So
Wow.
that was the experience there, and that was a great experience because at that point in time, going to school there, I didn't my school was far from where Larry Bird lived. So I had the
What?
experience of one time going, back in the days when they had those Sunday CBS games start about 1,
Heck yeah.
and in Boston, the T doesn't run 24 hours like in New York City.
Right.
But long story short, Larry gave me a ride, and I rode to the old Boston Garden with
Wait.
Larry Bird.
Stop. Don't play with me, Gerald. You
I'm dead
rode
serious.
with Larry. What year was this?
Well, you know what? It's so funny because it is the year that the Knicks actually beat the Celtics and came back. They were down, I think, 2-0, and they
Okay.
won three straight
Whoa.
and beat the Celtics. And I think Patrick Ewing hits the iconic three in the corner. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that might have been the tail end of Bird's career.
Is
But
that like
yeah,
91, 90? What year was that?
I'd say about 90, 91. It's one of those years. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Where did you
yeah.
go to school?
I went to a school called Mount Ida College. Just since they went bankrupt
Oh
and
wow, that
sold their
sucks.
property up in Boston. But he lived not that far from me,
Uh-huh.
and so as a kid, I was like, man, everybody gonna know me. I'm gonna have Larry Bird come to the school and get me. So I told everybody, and I thought he was gonna get out the car, and I purposely was late. And Larry pulled up, and he had this regular blue, I think it was a Ranger, like one of those SUVs and stuff, a blue Ranger. It's nothing, nothing fancy, whatever. And he just stayed in the car. It was a tent. He
Yeah.
just stayed in the car. And so my friends was like, he gotta get out. I was like, they was like, nah. I was like, they was like, they didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But he didn't get out. And I got in the car. And the interesting thing about Larry Bird, you've heard all the stories about him trash talking from the entire time we were in the car. And this is about probably about 20, 25 minute ride.
Right.
All he talked about was he talked trash.
About who?
You know, he just talked like the Knicks.
Yeah.
Johnny Newton can't guard me. I don't even know why they have him guard me. He can't guard me. It's a problem. I don't even know why they got him guarding me. But
Dude.
he was just really a great guy. He was just such a
wow.
great competitor. And so the story behind Red Auerbach getting rid of me, they basically told me that, you know they were going to play the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. And this was back when it was 3 out of 5, not 4 out of 7.
Okay. And
And
how long
so,
were you the ball boy at this point? How long were you the ball for the Celtics at this point?
Probably just for a season, if that. Yeah,
Okay,
it was
okay.
not that long.
Okay.
So, you know, he basically, when the Knicks came in to play them, you know, I was excited, yeah, up under the basket, cheering and stuff. And so the next day, they blew out the Knicks. Actually, yeah, I think they blew up the Knicks in game 1. I come in for game 2. The story I heard was in between game 1 and game 2, they watched the film. Larry goes out and says, "Look at Gerald over there clapping and for the Knicks."
Oh!
He was just playing.
Oh, snap.
Red hears that, and Red says, "Get rid of that kid."
Oh, my
So,
goodness.
Game 2 comes along, and I'm in the locker room, and I had a crazy experience, man, where somebody stole my coat out of the Celtics locker room.
What?
Yeah,
In the
prior
old
to
guard?
that,
What?
somebody stole my coat out of there, and God rest his soul, Dennis Johnson actually gave me
DJ.
money. Yeah, and gave me
Man.
money to buy another coat and
What?
stuff. Yeah, but that was when after that, I was in the locker room and actually was getting ready for the game. I was all dressed and used the restroom. And so one of the older ball boys came in there and was like, "Hey," he gave me this full of cash and said, "You've been fired. Red Auerbach fired you for cheering for the Knicks." So I laughed. I was like, "Get out of here, man. What's wrong with you?" Because everybody knew I was a Knick ball boy.
Right.
And he was serious. And I was so shocked that I had tears in my eyes. So I
Right.
couldn't believe it. And I left out and went into the Knick locker room. And they were like, "What? What's going on? What happened?"
Yeah, yeah.
And they were all like, "Nah, you stay with us. Nah, stay." And so they told me to stay. I can't remember because I didn't have any Knick apparel or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they lose game 2. They go back to the Garden. I show up. I had, they gave me a Knick apparel. Something was like, "Nah, you working with us." They win game 3 and 4 at home, and then the deciding game, it was like, "Yo, you got to come to the game. Got to come to the game." And they win that game, and they were egging me on to throw a towel on the Leprechaun. And if there's some video out, and I think I might have posted it in the past, where I stood up and started waving the towel.
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
the game was almost over, and the Knicks had it in hand, especially when Patrick hit the 3. I
Right.
stood up and waved the towel and all that stuff.
Right.
And clapping. Not knowing and realizing I still had to go to school in Boston.
Right. And you were still there.
I took this a little too far, but it was all good. And Larry had come back to me and said, if I had wanted my job back, he could get it back and stuff. And it didn't mean no harm. And I was like, you know what? It's okay, man.
So Legend would have got your job back, but you said don't worry about it.
Yeah, I was like, no.
What? Okay, now help me out with this part. You said another ball boy gave you an envelope full of money. That was from DJ. But
No. So when I had my coat stolen,
yeah.
they couldn't figure this out because, it was weird because they never had a specific, like a location for like the ball boys and equipment managers put all their stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody put all their stuff in the old Boston Garden. They put it in the same room
Right.
where the players' stuff was. And it was a security guard watching the room. So it was just really weird.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a cold night in Boston, and I'm going to look for my coat, and they were like, I was like, "Yo, somebody stole my coat." They were like, "Nah." We looked for hours upon hours. It was crazy, and nobody could find my coat. And so, it was something that was troublesome, and
Right.
I was just like, oh, and I actually saw somebody that had a coat on during the course of the game because it was the Boston Garden, and I was like, man, somebody got a coat like mine.
Yeah.
And I don't know, somebody might have gotten that coat, the same coat. I don't know how they got in there
That's
because
dope.
it wasn't no fur coat or leather and all this other stuff. It was just a regular down coat.
Right.
And Dennis Johnson, I think the next game pulled me to the side and he said, "Yo, here he gave me about $300 or so, and he
Wow.
said, here, get you a coat and stuff."
Damn
And
right.
I was appreciative of DJ about that.
Yeah, DJ and Casey Jones, for back in the day, those were personally my heroes. And
Yes.
Cornbread as well. Those were my uncle's favorite player was Cornbread. DJ was my guy. Of course, Legend was my guy, and Casey Jones, one of the greatest coaches ever. That is crazy. But how did you go from Knicks ball boy to Celtics ball boy?
Well, like I said, so they knew that I was going to school up in Boston,
Uh huh.
and the trainers Ed Lacert and Mike Saunders from the Knicks and Ed Lacert of the Celtics were like, "Yo, listen, man, why don't we have him work?" And the guy Wayne LeBeau was really pivotal also in that because I had gotten to the point where when I was with the Knicks, I would oversee all the different things. So a lot of the times you have NBA players, NBA teams, excuse that. Let's say they played at Madison Square Garden on Thursday, and they got another game. Let's say Friday or Saturday or something like that. Thursday, and they got another game Friday. What
Mm-hmm.
they would ask is that after the game, leave the uniforms and the warm ups and wash them. And I'm sure they have it in Madison Square Garden. They have these big industrialized washing machines and dryers.
Mm-hmm.
So they would just say, "Hey, look, can you do us a favor? Wash these uniforms and warm ups, put them in the washer and dryer and all that stuff, fold it back up, put it in the getaway bags, take a cab over to their hotel, leave it with the bellman, and that'll be it."
Oh wow.
And so that was kind of the courtesy. And because I had done it so much in the past, and then they had an experience, I think, that worked well where they were in New Jersey playing the Nets at the time. And somebody had stolen Larry Bird's jersey from, I don't know how it happened, but somebody had stole his jersey and they
Right.
were in a pinch. And back then there was a store called Jerry Crosby's
Okay.
that made the jerseys for the Knicks, which was downstairs in the garden. And so I never forget, they had me go to the Jerry Crosby, get in a cab, go over to the Meadowlands, get the jersey and stuff,
What?
and then they sent me back in a cab and stuff. So they gave me money and stuff, but because of those things, they knew who I was. And they
Right.
were like, "You know what? Hey, would you want to work for the Celtics while you're there? Earn some money." I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be great."
Right. Was that like a problem back in the day? Because you always hear old stories about players' uniforms, jerseys, something, shoes getting stolen out of locker rooms. Was that like a huge issue?
It could be like I had something like that happen, and I'd say to me, where things can happen. So in my case, the Lakers were playing the Knicks,
Uh oh.
and I can't remember if they were going to Boston or Philly.
Okay.
And it was once again one of those situations where, late at night, "Hey, listen, can you do me a favor? Wash this stuff, put it in the bag." And they would have these Gatorade bags with locks and stuff, and then you take it over to their hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I did that, and a lot of the times I would cut corners because it was late at night, and I had to go to school the next day. So what I would do is I would wash the towels from the games along with the uniforms. Like if I did that, I would wash the uniforms in a separate wash, obviously, but dry everything together.
Right.
And then once it was over, I just go.
Yeah.
Well, I did that, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't count all the jerseys. I put the jerseys back in the bag and then locked it up, everything. They go on, I believe, to Boston, like I said, or Philly.
Uh-huh.
And then there's a player that has a jersey that's missing.
Which Laker
It's
player didn't have a
double
jersey?
zero. And guess whose jersey it was?
Parrish?
Magic Johnson.
Don't play with me, Gerald. I should have said because you said 00. That's why I said Parrish. You
No,
forgot
it was-
Magic's jersey?
Magic's jersey. So
What in the world?
I said, "Oh my God." And so they had thought at first that maybe I stole it or somebody else. So I went in there and I went into the dryer, and up under all the towels, it was Magic's jersey.
Oh my
And
goodness.
they were like, "Yo," I said, "I'm sorry." And they were like, "It's an honest mistake." And so, I can't remember his name in a long time. Uh, uh, Gary Vee, I think his name is Gary
Yep,
Vee,
I
the
remember him.
longtime Lakers
Trainer.
trainer.
Yep.
It was like, don't worry about it and stuff. They had another one, but I didn't like the sort of interpretation that the announcers had, whereas the perception was that somebody had stolen Magic's jersey, and it was actually a Lakers and Celtics because I couldn't believe it. It was a nationally televised game,
Right.
and I got so nervous. And then back then, I had keys to get into the keys to get into the garden or whatever. Anytime at night, just go in. And
Right.
I went back the next day, and it was in there. Like,
Oh, that is crazy. I hope Chick. Who was it? Was it Pat? Was it Pat O'Brien or Dick Stockton or Chick Hearn
no,
talking shit?
it
Who was
had to
talking
be a
shit?
TNT game. It probably was it was a TNT game. So they had said
Okay.
that and mentioned that while Magic was wearing a 00 or something like that,
That's
he had his
crazy.
jersey stolen in New York.
Oh
And I
wow.
was like, no. And I took it and gave it back, and Gary Vee and them were like, no worries and stuff. Because,
That's
a game would end back then. It was a nationally televised game in about 11, 12. And then you're doing laundry at like 1,
right.
30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting out of it. I got to go to school the next day. And I
No
was like,
doubt.
you know what? I'm just going to draw all this stuff together. And I just didn't. I forgot to even count how many jerseys I had in there. And of all people, it had to be Magic's jersey.
Right. The greatest point guard ever. That is ill. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is crazy. And you were You were in high school at this point.
And yeah, I was in high school at
Wow.
that time.
That is crazy, Gerald. That's such a cool story. What kind of student were you?
Hey, good student, man. Had a really
Okay.
good student. My mom didn't play that. She did
Nice.
not
Nice.
play that at all. And I had a lot of responsibility. I think, at that point going to high school, as the Knicks started to get better and better, they turned the corner when Rick Pitino got there. And so when Coach
Mm-hmm.
Pitino was there, they became a team that everybody was seeing and talking about. And so at that point, I was getting seen on television. And so unbeknownst to me, some of the students in school and then the teachers, they were I had a lot of leeway, if you will.
Nice.
If I need to come into school late, it was no problem.
Right.
Hey,
They
whatever.
know what you did.
And I took care of a lot of teachers and security guards and stuff, school safety officers with tickets.
Nice.
Yes.
How much
yes,
access
yes.
did you have to tickets?
Huh?
How much access did you have to tickets?
What's interesting? It was the players, and,
Oh
and that's
wow.
why I said that, I just had a great, great experience. And, I often say, some of the experiences that I had were just based upon just treating people like just regular people, and,
Right.
between Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, Mark Jackson, Johnny Newman, Rod Strickland, these guys are like brothers to me. So,
Right.
asking those guys in advance, could I have an extra ticket or two? It was no problem. I think I don't know if Patrick ever gave up any tickets, but Gerald Wilkins constantly would give up his tickets, and
That's tight.
he just had one rule. It's like, who are you sitting next to? Whoever I had coming at that time as his then wife or whatever. He was wanted to know who I had sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then also if there's other tickets or something like that I needed, I would just always ask in advance.
Man, that is beautiful. I'm so glad that they looked out for you like that. I can
Yeah.
see that. I can see them doing that. So then so you do that. And you went to school in Boston. What did you want to do? What did you want to be?
Hey, you know what? I wanted to play basketball, but I didn't want. I wanted the glitz and the glamour. I didn't want to put the hard work in.
Right. Like most
I
young
didn't want
folks.
to do that. So that was the issue there. But yeah, it was fun, man. And I think just figuring it out and utilizing the contacts and stuff that I had made. And to this day, I still stay in contact with Patrick and Charles
Oh
Oakley
my
and
goodness.
Mark, Ross Strickland,
Wow.
Johnny Newman.
Wow.
Most of the guys and stuff like that were very, very influential. And
Right.
I always say that, being a young man, black and brown, and seeing black and brown people and stuff like that, I was brought into an environment that, again, it was a brotherhood and stuff. And I really, really appreciate those guys, as well as a lot of the people that worked at the Garden as well.
No doubt. And I remember Johnny Newman. To me, I just remember him as a Hornet. I don't even remember him as a Knick. I just remember him as a Charlotte
Yeah,
Hornet.
man.
Yeah, because
He-
I had
he-
his car.
Yeah, he was the Knicks. Actually, I think it was after his success with the Knicks and mainly with Patino, really set him up to get the big payday with the Hornets.
Okay, that's what
Yeah,
that's what it's about. You proved yourself somewhere else, and somebody another team's going to pay you. And
absolutely.
since you brought up the vampire, aka Rick Pitino, what happened with him in New York? Like that was his dream job. It came and went so fast. What happened?
I think really, at that point, and Coach Pitino has really talked about it. It was you could clearly see that there was a power struggle between him, the then GM president Al Bianchi.
Okay,
It wasn't really a good fit, and
right.
at that time, Coach Pitino wanted to prove himself, and you got to remember he was this guy that was kind of like this whiz kid,
Hmm.
who young guy had all this success. He's from New York,
Yep.
has the success at Providence, and really came in with this kind of mindset that, again, he's going to change the culture and translate his college game of shooting a lot of threes, which is now, I said back then, it was ahead of his time,
Right.
where
Right.
the way he utilized the 3-point shot, and how you see it in the NBA now, he was kind of really one of the main ones of utilizing that 3-point shot. I know the up tempo stuff, we know about from Doug Moe, the late Doug Moe and the Denver
Rest in peace.
Nuggets,
Yep.
but 7 seconds or less. But I'm talking about really utilizing that 3-point shot where guys are on a break.
Hmm.
Instead of cutting to the basket, they're flaring out to the 3-point line.
Right.
Coach Pitino was really, really influential in that. And I think when that sort of butted heads with management, he had an opportunity with a nice payday thrown at him to coach University of Kentucky,
Mm.
and it
Right.
was challenging. He had some challenges and stuff like that, and just going from that, and then from there goes to Boston. And
Right.
he had told me the story about with Boston. He said he wanted $50 million, and they were like, he just threw out a number thinking that they weren't going to match it.
Right.
And they said okay, and they gave him the money.
Yup.
But
He
I think
drafted all his players.
yeah, and I
Yup.
think really he knew that honestly finding his niche and his calling and understanding that his style of basketball, and what he demanded from his players was
Right.
more impactful on the college level than it
Right.
is in the pros. And that really is proven from the success he's had at Louisville as well as Iona, and now incredible success he's having at St. John's.
It's ridiculous. And did they? I know they beat UConn, so they won the Big East championship, didn't they?
Yeah, they won it, and the interesting thing is the first time in St. John's history that they've won the conference regular season, they won the conference tournament championship as
Wow.
well as the regular season title 2 years in a row. And I
Wow.
mean, the Big East is not what it used to be,
Right. Of
clearly,
course.
but just obviously the changing of the times and stuff like that with college sports in general. But it's a heck of an accomplishment to really come in and be able to have that much success in such a short period of
No doubt. I know Coach Hurley he probably killed one of his players. Didn't nobody say nothing. That
time.
dude's probably so mad. Okay. So I gotta so moving forward in the Rick Pitino thing, with us Celtic fans, the us what you call it? Bird's not walking through that door. Mikhail's not walking there. That right there was one of the coldest lines, but that right there was the beginning of you're about to get up out of here, dog. You're not gonna be in
Yeah,
Boston much longer.
yeah.
That
He
was
knew that. I think
yeah.
he knew the handwriting was on the wall,
He did. That's
at
why he
that
said
point.
that. Okay, so did you graduate from that school that you went to in Boston?
Actually, no, I went down. I went down and played. I was going down to play basketball at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, but I didn't
Oh,
play at
nice.
all and stuff. Had an injury and stuff. And then at that time, I didn't have the desire to work as much as it required.
Right.
So just finished up as a student.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
you graduated from there?
Yeah.
Okay, that was awesome. And did you graduate in journalism? What did you graduate with?
It was interesting. It was in mass communication.
There it
So,
is. Yep. That
I
makes
said,
sense.
hey, I didn't even realize that I was setting myself up to be able to run my mouth
No
and
doubt.
get paid for
No
it.
doubt. So you get out of school, and I know you started the Bottom Line Sports Show. Awesome, one of the best basketball radio shows,
Thank you.
podcasts ever. You're more than welcome, sir. I know you started that first. Where did you start that? Did you start that in New York? How did that go?
Well, you know what? It was interesting because when I got out of school, I was really just trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do in that space. And, the unique thing is that when I got out, I got into the educational field as an educational counselor,
Mm.
and at the same time, got this bug of coaching, and I started coaching like 10-year-old kids and following them up to the point where they were starting to get ready for high school, whatever.
That's
And then
awesome.
I connected with a major AAU program, a grassroots basketball program in New York City called the New York Ravens.
Mm.
That was on that level with the, Gauchos, New York Gauchos and Riverside Church. And so coaching those young men and seeing college coaches that we were in the presence of and going all these prestigious tournaments, and we were funded by Adidas. So
Mm.
that amazing run was led to, I had the fortunes of being a mentor of a young man who actually basically came up through the program and really nurtured, got him into boarding school,
Mm.
got his academics together, and he went and played for Coach Pitino.
Nice.
Yeah, he played 3 years and then he had to leave.
Okay.
He had to leave and go to the NBA, and he was a lottery pick for the Sacramento Kings and played, I believe, like 10 or 11 years in the NBA. And so after that,
Okay, you gotta say his name. Who is it? We know who this is. Who is this?
oh, Francisco Garcia.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay,
Yeah, with the
congratulations.
Sacramento
Yeah.
Kings, and then he played, believe he was with Houston for a while.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So between him and then after that, it was being a dad, having kids and stuff. And it just became something where I think my ex-wife was like, "Hey, why don't you start a sports show?" Because buddies of mine moved out to the suburbs in Jersey, and were like, "Man, we get so tired of these announcers. They don't even
Right.
talk about certain things that we'd be
Right.
interested in listening to." And it really clicked at that point when she said, "Hey, why don't you start a show?"
Mm.
And at that point, being that I had all the connections still from the players that I had met, from Kevin Johnson of then of the Phoenix Suns
Oh yeah, KJ.
to Mark and all the Knicks, to college coaches
Right.
that were again developed relationships with and stuff. And next thing you know, the Bottom Line Sports Show was born, and it became sort of an obsession where we had gotten to the point where, a weekly show, we were getting the same type of talent that ESPN was getting on their platform.
Wow. What platform were you on? Where were you on back then?
We were on a platform called Blog Talk Radio.
Blog Talk
So,
Radio.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we were getting all these guys, and it just got to a point where it was growing where we got Colin Kaepernick while he was in getting ready for the draft.
Whoa.
Yeah, got Colin Kaepernick before he got ready for the draft.
Right.
And actually, that's how I ended up meeting, Penny Hardaway. And so
Okay.
Penny came on board. Next thing you know, we had Dwight Howard on there,
Wow.
Nas, so Chris Rock. So it was just countless. And in fact, on the YouTube channel that I have now, and I had it, put it to the side and stuff. XM,
Uh-huh.
but the YouTube channel is youtube.com/the Beeline Sports Show. B as in boy, LINE Sports Show.
Nice.
You'll see a lot of the history of the Bottom Line Sports Show, from countless stars, Kevin Hart, all these people that came on that platform
Wow.
and really was with us. And it just really grew to the, like I said before, Mike Hill, who's now with Fox Sports.
Okay.
It's like, man, y'all getting the same type of guests we getting.
Wow, that is. How did you get Esco? You had Esco on your
Yeah,
show?
man.
What?
We had Escobar, man, right before it was one of his albums. He came out, and he came on the show. It was love, man, and we had a great time with him. Chris Rock just ran, and it just happened so fast. It happened
Right.
getting so many guests
That's what's up.
that from so many different backgrounds. And then, like I said before, the best one of them all, well, I shouldn't say that, but one that just turned into this unique relationship and friendship to this day was with Penny.
Yeah.
Penny had been off the grid for so long,
Right.
and just really just again underground with the injury, and really just took a hit because of the way his career ended.
Right.
And he came on the show, and it was like, man, he had such a great time, and he was like, yo, I want to be a part of this.
Oh my God.
So and actually we had made the announcement that he wanted to come back and play for the Miami Heat when LeBron went to Miami. So it was a lot
Okay.
of things, and he had a segment. So once Penny and Oak and these guys, Cato June, football player, won the Super Bowl
Okay.
with the Colts. They got on board. It became so many guys wanted to come on there. Sugar Ray Leonard, boxers, from boxers
Wow.
to
It's a legend.
entertainers to actors, everybody's on
Oh my goodness. That is crazy. Okay, so you do that, you blow up with that,
Yeah.
and then does that lead directly to Bottom Line Sports Show on Sirius XM?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. So the thing
Okay.
about it was, it just got to the point where I started pitching it to Sirius XM, and it was a gentleman, Brian Hamilton,
Mm-hmm.
and I would send Brian a email pretty much every week, once a
Right.
week, of who we were having on the show.
Yeah.
So he would start to see exactly who we were having on the show, and then it took some time, and then we had some conversations, and obviously talking to the powers that be. And then when we had the sit down with them, my buddies and I flew Penny up. We flew Penny up to New York, and he came to the meeting that we had with Sirius XM.
Wow.
And then at that point, we still had to wait a little time. And then this was right on the cusp of them getting ready to start the NBA channel.
Oh my goodness. So you basically Bottom Line Sports Show has been on Sirius since the NBA channel was birthed?
Yes, before. Yep.
Wow. That and
Yeah.
and when you break down like how the show started and your guests and all that, everything was organic, wasn't it? Like nothing was forced.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said on the YouTube channel, and it tells the history. We got some. I'm gonna go ahead and got some collections of the videos, but it's really in its essence. I mean, I remember former center fielder for the Minnesota Twins, the great Torrey Hunter, just was on there and
Yeah.
just was talking one time, and he's just like, "Hey, man, my father's battling a crack addiction and stuff." And it was like, wow, and it was just organic conversations. And I
Okay.
think what came out about that show and why it was so well received amongst football players, basketball players, and athletes and entertainers in general, conversation. So a lot of the time, these guys were doing so many great things in their communities with their charitable endeavors that a lot of the times, even though they didn't want it to be known,
Mhm.
I always was compelled to really allow people to know that they were just more than an athlete. So it was important to really just make sure we acknowledge them. And we just had just very genuine, authentic conversations
Right.
of some of the greatest people and athletes and ever play the game.
That's awesome. Okay, so how did and I'm so glad I'm talking to you too because I had no idea. Remember you said Bottom Line was on Sirius for 13 years. Am I correct?
15.
15 years. Oh, I'm not trying to short you 2 years. I
No, no,
apologize.
no.
And you were there before NBA radio.
Right.
That is outstanding. So what channel were you on back before NBA radio?
They had a channel called Sports Zone.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And that's where you were there. Wow.
Yeah.
So you were one of the introductory shows on NBA radio.
Correct.
What was your
Yeah.
time slot then?
It was Saturdays and Sundays. So we were always Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
A lot of people said we should have been 5 days a week, but
Definitely. Definitely. Wow.
Yeah.
Who was your host back when you first started?
it was a guy, a friend of mine back then, Howie C,
Okay.
that was on there and stuff, and Howie and I really, and then Howie transitioned out, and then Rick Mahorn came on and
Nice.
stuff, and Rick and I were there obviously for quite some time.
Right. How many years were y'all two together? Were you two together?
Man, I think Rick and I might have done 8, somewhere between 7 and 9 years. I don't know.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is outstanding. That is outstanding. So, and that's the thing that frustrates me. The show was unlike anything else on NBA radio and Sirius. To be honest, only thing that was similar to it was Rock the Bells Radio. Like the radio shows that they would have on there, Roxanne Shante. That's the only thing that was similar to what you all did. What was the issue? Because the one thing that you didn't lack was listeners, callers. You guys had that. What was the issue? Why they end the show?
Budgetary reasons, and I mean, the biggest thing is, I think I would drive myself crazy if I tried to figure out, why, whatever. But it was a great run. It's 15 years.
No doubt.
A lot of people, a lot of shows don't get that opportunity.
Right.
And we're gonna do something else,
Yeah.
and Rick and I still do it on YouTube. We moved it from Tuesday nights because now the season, the Pistons have games on Tuesday nights and stuff, but we're mostly on we've been primarily on Tuesday nights, but we've been doing it the last couple of weeks on Wednesdays.
Oh, yes, sir.
And it's still the same concept, still fun. I mean, Rick is unfiltered, so
Nice.
we're still going to do that. But I choose rather to look ahead than opposed to look back, because you just obviously they said budgetary reasons, and I respect that.
No doubt.
It was
No.
good, and so we still do some stuff from here from time to time.
Right.
But we'll be all right. We're definitely gonna be all right.
Y'all will 100% be all right, and I want to
I
know.
appreciate
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, and I cannot. I'm so glad that y'all are still doing it. I will 100% be tuning in when I'm at work, because I work second shift, so I will be at work. As long as it's not a big time game on, I am going to be listening to y'all. I want to ask this last question with serious.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. You got it. Wait a minute. You can still tune in and check us out on YouTube.
That's what I'm saying. You know what? And I can do both.
Yeah, you gotta check us out.
Yup.
Hey, we just had last week, man, Dana Barrows.
Oh my goodness, Supersonics,
Dana Barrows, yes.
Celtics.
Yeah, Massachusetts native.
Yes, sir.
And then the week before that, I believe we had Derek Coleman, man.
Oh,
So,
DC was on what?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
DC on there. So you can go back and listen to the shows. It's on the bottom, thebeelinesportshow.com. So instead of bottom line, it's BLINE sports show on YouTube.
Awesome.
And we're gonna have this upcoming week. We're gonna have Gus Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, long-time announcer. And then the
No
week
doubt.
after that, we got long-time basketball official, great Teddy Valentine's going to be on the show.
Oh,
So
my goodness.
we got a lot of things coming, man. And,
Yes, y'all
and
do.
we're going to have a lot of fun, and we still have a lot of fun. So definitely continue support, man.
100%, I will do that, because I'll just cut y'all on and listen to y'all and just have the game on, no sound like that.
Absolutely.
That's how I'm gonna do that, because I want to hear y'all. And Gus
But you
Johnson.
can also check it out, even when you have time, either going to work or whatever, because I tell you this, Rick is something else, man, especially when Bam Adebayo got that 83 or so.
Oh my goodness.
Rick was like this. I said, yo, Rick, if you were playing, he was saying, what I would have did.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Rick lets it be known.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
have a lot of fun, man.
He would have put
Wow.
Bam on his ass. Oh my goodness. And Gus Johnson is one of the best announcers ever to do any type of sport. So, oh yeah, I will be tuning in. And before you leave today, we're going to put that back out there. All right. So that I am so glad to get that catch up with you, brother, because like I said, I admire you. I've been a fan of yours for a while, ever since I remember taking my son, who's graduated from high school years ago, but taking him to, it was like this, not an internship, but it was down at the St. Louis Science Center. Awesome program they had, but it was only on Saturday mornings. So I didn't like doing it because I worked late Friday night, but I would get up, take him, and then I would get to listen to y'all. So it was really cool. Like every Saturday was a thing. All right. So since you brought it up, I want to get into this, and I want to ask about Memphis Tigers with your boys team. 83 points. Bam Adebayo puts himself above Kobe. He is number 2 all time in the scoring. Scoring in one game, single game. Your thoughts, honest thoughts. Give it to me.
Congratulations to him, right? To be able to do that. However,
I knew it was. I can see it in your eyes. I knew it was something else. Go ahead, Gerald.
what the things they were doing, I think watered down the 83, like fouling intentionally so they could get the ball back. It just, it was 2 things that I took away from the 83. That was one of them. And then also, he scored 83 points in essentially 46, 47 minutes. Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in 48 minutes, 47, 48 minutes.
Right.
So it just lets you see exactly the greatness of Wilt. And let's be clear, Wilt was on that list in terms of multiple. He was on there at least twice. And every time we hear things about records being broken or passed, this person, his name is always brought up.
Yeah.
And I think that clearly, that's been one of the premises behind, Rick and I were doing the show. It's like, hey man, there's so many great players out here. Let's not forget about these all-time greats. So I'm always, I'm always, interested and really pleased that when things like this occur, we can hear about guys like Wilt Chamberlain. And I just look at the fact is that the flow of the game if he would have got that 83 in the flow of the game, and it wouldn't have taken these little gimmicks and stuff,
Okay.
I would say, hey, that was nice, but it was crazy, and I'm shocked and surprised by that. So
I
that's
hear
the
you.
thing where it watered it down a little for me.
Okay, but here goes the thing. Go back to this because you said gimmicks, they fouled him. It's not his fault that the Wizards didn't take him serious, and then they wanted to play 3-on-1, and then constantly foul him late in the game. That's not his fault. He had the man had 70 points, I think, in the third, didn't he?
Yeah,
Like,
he had 43 shot free throw attempts.
he
I was
did.
like,
Made
wait a
36
minute,
on
come
them.
on.
Yep. But that's
You
not
know,
his fault, Gerald.
But you know what? Look, and that was something that Rick and I had talked about. Like,
Right.
the Wizards should be ashamed of themselves because,
You're right.
you can't let somebody get out there and do what he did
Exactly.
on them. And I mean, it just really, I think, honestly, the Wizards might need to go back and really rethink of changing their name once again, because again, what's associated with them has been nothing but failure.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, how could you feel proud to be a Washington Wizards fan,
No.
knowing that obviously the whole situation with Bradley Beal and John Wall,
Yeah.
the injuries that have occurred,
Yeah.
being in a space where now you give up 83 points to Bam Adebayo
Yeah.
and the Miami Heat. So you're right. I blame the Wizards.
Yeah.
Lack of defense. It looks like they're always trying to tank.
Uh-huh.
And then I also got to give a little blame to Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat.
Which is what? Because he kept him in? Tell me
Well,
that.
no, not even that, but it was just the fact is they were fouling. Like when Adebayo missed a shot or something like that, they were like foul, 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 so they could get the ball back. And so
Oh,
they were
Miami was doing
things
that. Yeah,
there.
they were. Yeah.
Yeah, to get more possessions
Yeah.
for opportunities for Bam. So
Yeah.
that's why I said, if you're able to get that in the flow of the game, kind of like what Kobe did,
Mhm.
okay, that really stands out.
Right.
But that right there,
Yeah, I 100% get that part, and I love how Spoelstra said, I apologize to absolutely no one. I love I love that from him. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm watching the game, and I had the Celtics OKC game on, but then that's happening. So of course my other device, and I'm at work. My other device, I went right to that Miami Washington game, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. He's about to, he's gonna catch up to Kobe. Okay, well he's probably gonna come out the game. He's not gonna. Oh my god! And I'm not gonna lie, Gerald. When he went over Kobe, I was just like, oh, he might catch some hell tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just knew it instantly. And I get the faction of people that say, well, what's the controversy? What's the big deal? He's not the number one. It's still Wilt. He's just over Kobe. But then I get the other group of people that were like, okay, this was kind of funky. There was a lot of Babbage that was into this, and why'd he put himself over Cole? And Cole's supposed to be his favorite player. Because I'm not gonna lie, if I'm in, if and it kind of depends on the individual, but if I'm in the Garden and I'm rocking, it's the playoffs, and I'm beating the Celtics ass, and I got a chance to go over GOAT, and I can get 65 and go over his 63. I don't know if I'll do it. I don't know. I might be too tired. I might come out. It's just, but I get why he went for it, because what would Kobe Bean Bryant? Bean would tell him, you better do that.
Yeah, you got to do it. That's the
Yeah.
spirit of the game. And I mean, look, I just, like I said before, the thing is I take away from that is it just really lends to the fact is how great Wilt Chamberlain was.
You ain't lying.
You score you score 100 points in a 48-minute game. Guys are getting 80,
Right.
83.
Right.
And you're talking about the amount and what skill you have to have and be in that space. I mean, I don't think it's possible. You never say never,
Right.
but I think clearly it just doesn't lend to the fact is that we will see a player eclipse 100.
No.
Like, I don't know if he could have got to 90. Maybe he could have got to 90 or so, but I don't think he could have got to 100.
I don't think he even could have got the 9. Pooped. Like, he looked
Yeah.
spent. He looked done. And the thing and like you said, with the 100 points with Wilt, I don't think we'll ever see that, because Wilt was Goliath. No one was even close to his size or stature. The only person that was as good as him, and definitely wasn't offensively, was Russell. That was it. And Russell wasn't even close to his height.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why he did it. And every time down, who got the ball? Wilt. They just was passing it to Wilt. So nobody overdo that. Okay, next subject, and this This is big time to me, and I'm not going to front. I remember y'all talking about this on Bottom Line, and I would love your opinion on it. JT is back, and he's back with the Celtics. He did not want to he did not want to waste a year, a season. He sees his team is good. What say you, sir, on him coming back so soon after the Achilles tear?
You know, what's interesting is that right after it was announced that he was going to come back, Rick and I recently had, we call him Bread, aka one of the Celtic legends, Cedric Cornbread Maxwell.
Cornbread.
And Bread was saying, man, we just recently had him on. It's still up there, but Bread was saying that he's going to need at least 20 games to really get his, if you will, legs under him.
Yep.
And I think Dana was also saying, really just take it easy and make sure that he doesn't try to overextend himself because, a lot of the times your mind will tell you one thing, your body will tell you another.
Got that right.
But look, him coming back and he's able to play, I think from all indications, he got the surgery right the next day as opposed to waiting and having the swelling, subside and then having the surgery. That was a game changer. So, his success might really open up a door where guys will be more inclined to have that Achilles injury repaired sooner rather than later.
Right.
But I had said before, when he comes back and in the role he's in, he's going to have that 20 games. I think that it clearly now is a Eastern Conference that is Detroit, Boston, and everybody else.
Right.
I would say the Knicks maybe a third, but it's really Detroit and Boston that would, for me, right there with one another.
You put Detroit over your New York Knickerbockers.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now, see, and I get that, right? And I get that, and then maybe the reason why you're doing it is how Detroit has owned y'all this regular season.
I think also too, yeah, and I think clearly, they've been very dominant. Very dominant, and you're still looking at a team. I mean, the last time they beat the Knicks, they didn't have, Isaiah Stewart. They didn't have Jalen Durant. And these guys are really, again, continue to grow right before our eyes.
Right.
And then adding guys like a Duncan Robinson and the success they had, I clearly look at them and say defensively as well as offensively, they're going to pose matchup problems for the New York Knicks because they can match them if they're in their physicality. Offensively, Cade Cunningham, I believe, really is having an MVP type of season and should be the MVP. And Jalen Duren is an all-star and really has come into his own. So they match the Knicks in terms of offensively, and I think defensively, they can really pose a lot of problems for them. So hands down, I really believe that, again, I thought the Knicks needed another scorer just to really solidify that team in terms of, again, adding more score because, again, that's what you need in terms of being able to go deep in the playoffs. And I don't see that with them. I just, the chemistry and the run that the Pistons have been on, it warrants them to be the number one seed in the East.
And you think Cade is the MVP over Jaylen Brown?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The only reason why I say that is because, and it's not a knock against Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown, for all intents and purposes, I think people started to realize and value him even more so without Jason Tatum. I think it's a lot of times he had been taken for granted because Jason Tatum was there. And it was always that, he's only good because of Jason Tatum. Well, when Tatum was out and been out, he was really on full display. And he was that guy. And the thing I love about the Celtics, look, they're a team that I've always said that when you win a championship, you know how to manage a season. You know how to be able to manage a season. Don't get too high when you have certain victories. Don't get too low when you have certain losing streaks, whatever. And you know how to make sure you don't let a 3 to 4 game losing streak turn into 10 to 12.
Right.
Great teams know how to nip it in the bud and really move forward and know when it's go time. And that's what you see from the Celtics. And we're starting to see from the Pistons in terms of, look, they had a recent 4-game losing streak. It went by the wayside, and next thing you know, they're right back clicking on all cylinders. So, Jaylen Brown has really deserved to be that MVP. But I give the little nod and the edge just simply because from the start till now, the Detroit Pistons and Cade Cunningham has been perhaps the most consistent and the
Right.
impact he's had on this team.
I get it, and I get your love for the Pistons, but I'm not gonna lie. When you lose to Brooklyn and those teams that they lost to in that 4 game stretch, it made me lose a lot of respect for Detroit. And this is how I look at Detroit and New York, right? I look at Detroit and New York like Boston and New York last year. We owned y'all in the regular season, and look what happened in the playoffs. I think it'll be the same freaking thing. It'll be Detroit owns New York in the regular season. The playoffs come, it's going to be a totally different animal. But I totally, you got to help me out with this offensively because I don't see Detroit staying on New York's level when it comes to offense because defense, Detroit has it, but offense. I think the only person that can create their own shot is Cade and maybe Karis LeVert. That's about it. Like New York has scores. Even Calderon coming off the bench, I'll take his scoring. I mean, I think New York, like y'all, and Amin Al Hassan has said this. I don't like to give him too much props, but he has literally said New York is coming out the East, and even though they looked horrible on that West Coast trip, I gotta tend to go with them. I agree with that. I
Well,
really
I
do.
think, look, the league would love to have the Knicks come out of the East because it's a major market. You have them being relevant, and i.e., that's going to really translate into a lot of eyeballs on, having a major market in the NBA Finals. That is sort of again what you want, especially with this new TV deal
No doubt.
with NBC, Amazon, and all those network partners. I just look at the Knicks and say, do you have guaranteed scores, right? Like
Right.
proven scores that you can sit back and say, crunch time, they can go to this person and they're going to get a bucket.
Yeah.
Outside of Jalen Brunson, I don't see that. And that's no
OG,
disrespect or slight on
Cat,
Mikal Bridges.
Bridges.
I think Carl Anthony Towns is pretty much that second tier shooter and scorer.
Right.
But other guys like Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, even Josh Hart, I don't see these guys being sort of on the level of say, okay, you know what Boston has, right? What
Right.
Boston can throw out,
Right.
Tatum, Brown, Pritchard.
Yeah.
Now you got Vucevic when he comes back.
Yeah.
It's a system that guys could be placed in the right situation and be able to knock down open shots. Derek White. So I just don't see that with them. And what really I like about the Pistons, if you will, their physicality and their toughness.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
last year, keep in
Yeah.
mind when the Knicks beat them in 6 games last year, Isaiah Stewart wasn't a part of that. So you have,
Oh yeah. He
yeah,
didn't play at
Isaiah
all in that
Stewart.
series.
I think he did. Yeah.
Okay.
He wasn't a part of that.
Wow.
So you add him to that mix, and then you're adding in people like a Duncan Robinson. You add in a Karis LeVert. You add in Tobias Harris and stuff. Guys that I think clearly, Cade Cunningham is the straw that stirs the drink, for the Pistons. But allow those guys to play in the roles that they're most comfortable. And that's the biggest thing that it will come down to. Who is able to execute and get their guys in the comfortable positions to hit shots? I think it's a lot of pressure on the Knicks. Look, I've been screaming since the start of the season that the Knicks should have really tried to figure out a way. And from what I understand, they sort of backdoor trying to find out if they could get him. But I thought LeBron would have been ideal to have another bona fide proven guy
Yeah.
and a scorer that defenses will have to really pay attention to.
Yeah.
I'm not really sold on the Knicks, but again, that's why we have the playoffs.
Exactly, and I think the whole LeBron of it all. I think he could end up once the Fakers lose again this year, and then they start paying. That's their name. But this ain't the '80s. This ain't Showtime. It's they the Fakers. What is it? Once and then they go into panic mode, and then he goes into I need to go somewhere I can win. If it's not Cleveland, I see him going to y'all. I just really see him going to New York. Because that's another major market. He loves being in major markets. He loves being the focal point. He would be the focal point. I just wonder if the Knicks want to give up. They won't even have to give up much because he'll be a free agent. Make that roster spot. Give him the money he wants. And are y'all okay with a lot of the talk going to be about him instead of y'all? That's the only thing I think.
Well, I think clearly, from what I heard from my sources, that the way you look at a lot of the things that Cleveland has done, in terms of trading Darius Garland, obviously there's been some rumors that Donovan Mitchell is looking to leave, and I think clearly what has happened now, from what my sources have told me,
Hmm.
that Adidas is going to really step in and really offset whatever money he would lose by going to another team and losing that sort of fifth year option to get that supermax money.
Oh wow.
Adidas would really offset that, and now with James Harden and James Harden there, there's been talk that LeBron would come back, and look, that would be the storybook ending,
It
right? To
would
go
be.
back where it all started.
Right.
And look, Cleveland, they would sort of ride that wave. And like you said before, it seems like the handwriting is already on the wall that Donovan Mitchell will not sign a long-term deal with that, and look for them to move him
Hmm.
and LeBron return. And now you have a backcourt of LeBron and James Harden.
Wow. And Donovan would go where he wants to go back home. He'll go to New York.
Well, I don't even think it'll be New York. I think it would go somewhere else. I mean, I don't know specifically where. I didn't hear that, but what
Right.
I've heard is that, he's not really worried about leaving that fifth year on the table. So signing a 4-year deal and letting it be known that he's not going to sign back with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Hmm.
And wherever he goes, Adidas will make up the offset the money that he will lose in that 1 year. But
Right.
at the same time, he will now, be able to go and open up the door for LeBron to be there with James Harden.
That's awesome. Okay, okay, and I definitely trust your sources because you are plugged in. All right, so help me out with this team, man, because I really think I'm not gonna lie, man. I think it's coaching, coaching. I think it's coaching. Why are the Minnesota Timberwolves so basic and just not good? They lost again today to OKC. They beat up Golden State teams, so that don't really mean nothing. I don't understand why this team, they have a good roster. I know Randall is soft at times, but man, what is wrong with this Minnesota Timberwolves team, bro? Help me out.
I think it's just matchups, and you look at the Western Conference, that is what, we're going to witness in the playoffs, right? Like if you look at the matchups where OKC, is a tough matchup for Denver, right?
Hmm.
But then OKC struggles with San Antonio, right?
Right,
So
right.
when I look at Minnesota, even then, it's still trying to figure things out. I still believe that they pulled the plug maybe a little too soon with trading Karl Anthony Towns,
Got that right.
and
Hmm.
sending him and getting Julius Randle. Yeah,
Hmm.
they went back to the Western Conference Finals, but I think still it's just matchups for them.
Right.
Just a team that, again, from what they're able to do, from an offensive standpoint and defensively, and obviously the shortcomings of Rudy Gobert,
Hmm.
it's really going to come down to matchups for them, and they're not alone in that Western Conference. Let me tell you
Right,
something.
right.
Those matchups are really, really going to dictate a lot. And like as much as people want to sit up there and say, "Yeah, let's pencil in OKC to get back to the NBA Finals,"
Hmm.
I don't think that is a fair assessment to make and statement to make, because they're going to struggle. Like if they meet up with San Antonio,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
give San Antonio a puncher's
You
chance
got that right.
simply because they mirror each other. I
Hmm.
know we talked about the Minnesota Timberwolves, but when
Hmm.
you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Spurs,
Hmm.
they mirror each other, and the only difference is that they look, both of them defend. But if you look at the San Antonio Spurs, they have guys that can create their
Yes,
shots
they
and
can.
are able
Woo.
to be effective scorers on that wing.
Right,
Whereas Oklahoma City don't have that, and Luke
right.
Dort, among others, DiVincenzo, and all those guys, where you're having Castle,
Yeah.
Harper, Fox, all
Vassell.
those guys.
Hmm.
Yeah, Vasil, all
Hmm.
those guys to throw in there. Keldon Johnson.
Yep.
You have a lot of guys in there that can pose a lot of problems for the,
Hmm.
and that's why they sort of match up so well. And look, Sam Presti had said that, that was sort of the mindset of when they took from the San Antonio Spurs and really developed what they have in Oklahoma City. So it's going to be a bloodbath, but I think Minnesota is still trying to figure out when you have those certain matchups. Julius Randle looks incredible,
Right.
but it's still trying to figure who they out, and sometimes those matchups really will dictate how far they'll go.
And you're 100% correct. Is just the thing that frustrates me so much with Minnesota. Two things that they do damn near every game they lose. They do this. They have slow starts and they take entirely too many threes. Like you're Anthony Edwards, you're Ant-Man. You can jump through the roof, but yet you and JT and my boy Tatum does the same thing. It makes me upset, and the whole city of St. Louis don't like it. Settles for these little pretty threes that do not drop. That's why we lost to y'all last year in the playoffs, because we forced threes that we should not be taking. Minnesota does the same thing, and I look at Chris Finch. I just think Chris Finch might be above his depth. I think he's a good G League coach. He's a good, he'll probably be a great college coach. I just think he's above his depth, because when you always start off slow and you always shoot yourself out of games, to me, that's coaching. I don't know. Am I tripping?
No, I mean, no, I think that's the biggest thing. And look, I said the same thing a couple years back when I think the Celtics were playing the Miami Heat, and
Yep.
just how much relied so much on the three.
Talk about it.
And it's interesting that, when you get in the playoffs, you just don't really change who you are. And it's like, okay, well, you have success. So now you just kind of take the good with the bad. I don't subscribe to that theory. You're right with Anthony Edwards. Would love to see him attack and really be a little bit more, aggressive. It's the same thing with Jaden McDaniel and having the size and stuff like that.
He's so
Yes,
good.
again, but I don't see teams, when I look at the league, we've moved so far away from giving a guy on the ball on the block and letting him operate to now. Like, we
Right.
got a 7'4" guy that plays out on the perimeter,
Right.
and Victor Wembanyama. So
Right.
those days are gone, and it's a lost art of being able to throw the ball down on the block and then allowing the guy to really, again, utilize his size and take high percentage shots that closer to the basket.
But Braun was doing it last night against them Nuggets. I was shocked at how many times he got on that block. Go ahead, old
Yeah.
dude. Like, he was straight doing it, taking Christian Braun to the hoop. So I got to give him props for that. He was doing that. All right, help me out, man. Let's do college real quick before we get up out of here, because this man has been gracious enough with his time today. What happened with the with your boys Memphis Tigers? And I remember, and I want to bring this up because your post that you had on IG was very telling. You said the team straight quits on Penny. What happened? What was that?
Well, and Penny, and look, let me be clear, man. Love Penny. He's like a brother. And make no mistake, he knows it wasn't a good team put together. And it really,
Right.
really had said this and admitted that, them waiting on the young man, Dane Danger, who NCAA didn't clear him until the day before the NBA draft. They tried to wait on PJ Haggerty, who was player of the year last year. He decided to go to Kansas State. And so he took the best available players within the portal. And the biggest thing is that these kids had talent, but just really wouldn't commit themselves to really, again, coming together as a team. I mean,
Right.
unfortunately, it's a combination of that, and on top of that, being able to schedule the way they schedule. Because think about it this way: Miami of Ohio won 31 games.
Yep.
Everybody was saying Miami, Ohio, all this stuff. They lose one game, and they're logically they're pretty much going to be a double-digit seed.
Lost to my UMass Minutemen.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the thing is that we are not understanding, and I say we, I said, certain fans are not understanding the landscape of college basketball.
Right.
What the NIL and these power conferences have done, they have eliminated Cinderella. So there's no room for Cinderella if she is not in the Power Four, Power Five conferences.
Oh, wow.
And when I look at Memphis, yeah, they were terrible, but you have to schedule that way in order to get a top seed.
Yep.
And he scheduled UConn in the Maui Invitational. He scheduled a bunch of teams last year in order for his team to get a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate that that's what you have to do, because if you don't, you can end up like a Miami of Ohio.
Right.
And look, there was no commitment from the guys. They tried, but it caught up to them, and they just couldn't play.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just atrocious by this part of the fan base in Memphis that was been calling for him to be fired and saying,
sure.
you know what, it's been entirely too long there. I think he stayed there too long, because in his 8-year tenure that he's been there, he has basically gone through having the #1 recruiting class,
Yep.
okay, which I think the NCAA is still upset about. That's why investigations.
Right.
Clearly, you don't want a mid-major, a small market franchise or college getting and taking away from the blue bloods, i.e., North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and so forth. But then also too, the game of college basketball changed. He
Right.
went from in a conference where you had Cincinnati, you had Houston. It went from maybe a two-bid league to a one big league.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, in that 8 year span, last but not least, they went to an NIL. So now gone are guys going to schools because of the coach and wanting to get their games better. Guys are going to get the best check
Right.
and try to maximize the earnings potentials. So I'm not mad at any of that, but I think clearly, there's a fashion of Memphis Tiger fans that don't realize these things have transpired. And at the same time, they really believe that they are a lot better than what they are. And unfortunately, like I just said, I don't
Yeah.
think we're going to see a Cinderella will be perhaps Vanderbilt. Right?
Wow.
Vanderbilt will be a Cinderella team
Right.
if they get to the Final Four. And
Yeah.
Vanderbilt is in the SEC.
Yeah.
So,
Playing
you have
Arkansas
to,
today. I wonder who won.
yeah, so I mean that has really changed the landscape. But I told him, I spoke to him about 3 days ago, and I told him, I said, you will be appreciated when you go because they have this whole dynamic of these passionate fans thinking that fire him and they're gonna bring in this coach. Any coach that's there that has success, they're gonna be on the next thing smoking to get out of there to a
Right.
Power Four, Power Five conference
Exactly.
to get a better payday.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I stand by it. They quit on him, and it was just self-evident at the end of the day. It was a very, very tough season, but he gonna get it together, and he's really fueled with hunger and desire to
Right.
start early once that portal open up and really get the right kids in there, and they'll bounce back.
Gerald, I 100% believe they will. And those, a lot of Memphis folks, they probably got delusions of grandeur. You go from Coach Cal and you went to the dang championship game. You should have won it. I'm still mad that Derrick Rose didn't get that championship, punk ass KU. But then Mario Chalmers with that shot. So you go from that, you have some down years, and then you get Penny, and then Penny brings a instant gravitas to the team, and you win some games. So I think they got delusions of grandeur with those teams. But the talk about college real quick. So you really think, you're probably right, especially with NIL. We're not going to see mid majors make a run this year in this tournament, huh?
No, unfortunately not. I think, look, the way it's set up now, the best talented players are going to wherever the money's at, right? So
Right,
you can
right.
have guys like, remember a few years back, Oakland University beat Kentucky, which led to Calipari's, leaving Kentucky. You won't see that no more, right? You won't see that no more. If a mid-major wins a first round game, that's a great success.
Right.
But having them march on like we've seen a George Mason, a VCU, a Shaka Smart Nose, a Wichita State,
Right.
UMBC, those days are gone. And I mean, I would be shocked
Right.
if
Wow.
that happens in this day and age. But it's clearly evident a lot of those kids are going to the big market schools because obviously they have the money. And at the end of the day, it's just not working out like that. And I'll be honest with you, I remember last year, Coach Pitino basically said that, look, it might do us some good to have the ACC and the Big East merge to be able to stand on solid ground with the Big 12,
Wow.
the Big 10, and the SEC,
Yeah.
because that's what it has come to at this point. I'm
It's
happy that
sad.
kids are getting paid,
Yeah.
but it's clearly hurt the whole idea of Cinderella making and having a major impact in the NCAA tournament.
But to me, I look at it like, how is this different than in the 90s when the big name schools, Duke, Georgetown, Connecticut, UCLA, they got all the big name players, but you still had mid majors that would make significant runs. Like what? Because what were they? They were paying the players back then. They just didn't call it NIL. Everything was under the table because NCAA was so dirty and still is. How is it worse now than it was back then?
Because I think back then you would go based upon the coach, right? You would
Yeah.
go there,
Yeah.
you would go somewhere and develop. And now it's essentially, look, mid majors are now like a farm system, right? I would say if you
Wow.
want to look at like at the NBA, it's a G League, right?
Wow.
You will basically go a certain place, evolve, have your game develop, And then at that point, you enter the transfer portal, and now you go into the best school with the best option. And it's money driven, right?
Right.
And you're right, it's 1,000%. It was like that in the past, but it's just so to the point now that it's almost impossible to see a school like a Hofstra to be
Right.
able to say we can make a deep run. Look,
Hmm.
I hope I'm wrong,
And they're in it
but
too. Yeah.
I just don't see it. We
Yeah.
won't see that
Right.
just due to the fact is the economics of the game of basketball and understanding where your power conferences lie. Like you think about what's offered in the Big 12, right?
Right. Right.
From NBA type players, talented players that's going to be drafted, and some of those teams and stuff like that, they're getting like 8 to 10 teams in the tournament.
Right.
So,
Right.
it's just so much of the depth that's in these power conferences, just based upon the fact it's the money, i.e., driven by the football revenue, that again is further watered down
Right.
what has existed in the mid majors.
It's again, you're 1,000% correct. If you watch what is it, Requiem, that 30 for 30 Requiem for the
Yes.
East, for the Big East. If you watch that 30 for 30, it breaks down all this and foresees all of this happening. So it is crazy. I tell you one thing, one mid major that we're certainly behind here in St. Louis. Mo, we're proud as hell of these Billikens. We hope the St. Louis
Yes.
U can do something. I hopefully they can. I'm not sure if they're in the A10 championship, but they're definitely going to get a tournament bid. We want to. That's a mid major right there that we want to see do something, and I think legit can. And one of my co-hosts, he's a sideline reporter for them. He actually has them good enough to go to the Final Four, which I was surprised about. So I would love to see. And right now, since before we get out of here, I need give me a Final Four for you. Give me a Final Four real quick.
Hey, you know what? As much as I like Duke, I think Duke, I have to put them in there. I don't,
Okay.
I'm not a big Duke fan, but I gotta say
Unfortunately,
Duke. I think Arizona has been on really on an incredible run.
yeah, they have.
I think Duke, Arizona, Florida
Hmm.
really has played some great basketball.
Right.
And I'm torn between Michigan and Arkansas being that
Mm.
other team there.
Okay.
Michigan with that size that they
Right.
pose, and Arkansas. Darius Acuff has been playing phenomenal, and they got size there. But I'd probably go out on a limb and say Michigan because
Right
he's
on.
really size. They just got an incredible size, and they utilize their bigs. But look, I hope it works out for St. Louis, and it's really a big thing for them to be able to retain their coach and stuff. And
Yeah.
that is big and monumental because again, obviously having the success and stuff like that with that program, it
Mm.
really goes a long way and really lends to the A10 having at least multiple teams in the NCAA tournament because, like I said before, for all intents and purposes, you're getting 10 and 12 teams out of a conference just really doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
But it's because they have so much of the talent that's there. And a lot of their teams are damn near all in the top 25.
Right, right. It's sad. It sucks when it's just like a one conference is running everything in college basketball, even college football. Another reason why I don't even watch college football, Mr. Brown, because college football to me is janky and set up only for the big schools to make it. That you'll never see a Vanderbilt or a smaller school win a national championship. It's just not set up like that. I can never follow a sport where one year the championship is the Sugar Bowl, then the next year the championship is the Rose Bowl. That doesn't make any sense to me. I can never get behind it.
I've always argued the same thing. Like,
Right.
why is it that, granted, yeah, you have 68 teams or whatever in the NCAA tournament, but
Mm.
why is it that the college football presidents cannot establish a tournament format
Right.
that is similar to
Right.
what is in the NCAA tournament?
Right.
Now, I'm not saying
Right.
implement that many teams in there,
Right.
but have a format where now you implement all of these smaller bowl games and make them sort of like first round matchup areas and stuff and allow
Perfect.
people to move on.
Right.
Because you're right, outside of the playoff system, it really devalues all these other bowl games
Yes, sir.
where the Gator Bowl at one point was something,
Right.
and you have this bowl here, you have this all these different bowls. If really come up with a system that allows the college football playoffs to really consist of what the bowl season is all about. And you have these first, second round matchup sites and allowing these bowls to have some type of relevancy. But again, it's all controlled about money. That's why you have these conferences. And I'll give you a school that at one point, they might have been the closest thing, or the last one we would see that's closest to that, and that was Boise State.
You're right.
Boise State had that
Yep.
unbelievable run and
Yes,
all that
sir.
stuff that they could beat Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll see that. And
Right.
I mean, from what I understand, it's not a question of if, but don't be surprised within the next few years or so that the SEC decides to sort of spearhead a push to sort of disband themselves from the NCAA and run their own show.
What?
Because
You see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That has been talked about.
Oh,
In
my
fact,
God.
SEC President Greg Sankey was really trying to sort of squash some of those rumors and stuff like that, and he didn't do a real good job of that. But there has been talk about the fact is that the SEC and the Big Ten, as well as the Big 12, would sort of break away from the NCAA and do their own thing. Because technically, why are they a part of the NCAA?
Right. So they run it.
If you look at violations,
Yeah.
rules infractions, all that stuff went out the window.
That's
right?
crazy.
It's turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
All of that stuff has gone out the window. And clearly, it's no benefit for the SEC and these power conferences to have the NCAA.
Right.
They can be able to do what they want, set up the rules how they want. And I think that that's what it's going to come to, especially with the college football playoffs.
Would it be just football or basketball as well?
I think it would just be football.
Right.
But I think the handwriting's on the wall. Anytime when you're having schools like Memphis is being considered to possibly go into the new Pac-12, like there was a point in
What?
time where you had conferences that geographically made sense, right?
Right. You
You
did.
know,
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense
It
now
doesn't.
at all.
It doesn't.
And what it's going to be, and now I think it's furthermore, you're going to see some of these smaller conferences, maybe like the A10 and maybe the Big Ten, the Big East, or some of these other conferences, the Big East and the ACC, and maybe the A10 merge to be able to sustain. Because at the end of the day, the money is all driven for college football and the TV revenue, and to be able to sustain that,
Yeah.
the Big East doesn't offer football. So
Right.
they're going to have to figure out ways to be able to continue to generate enough revenue
Right.
that maybe one of the things is merging with the ACC as well as perhaps the A10.
That is ridiculous. Well, you guys hear him. You see how this man can break down almost any sport that I throw at him. That's why he is still a host over at Sirius XM on the sports channels. This man knows sports in and out. Before we get out of here, what are your little Buccaneers going to do this year? What they going to do?
You know what? We're gonna get back to prominence and dominance in running the NFC South. I must say that again, I was a little disappointed that Mike Evans, in the way he left,
Right.
kind of lends it up in the air and saying Todd Bowles, is obviously maybe one of the reasons why he wanted to leave. And I just say that obviously, black and brown individuals don't really get an opportunity really to be able to sustain those positions and
No
stuff.
doubt.
And I look at what Todd Bowles has done. I was just questioning why his job was ever being thought about being in jeopardy. Just the simply the fact is they had won the division. I think he's won it three years in a row. So I mean, again, it's hard to do that. They had definitely some setback with injuries and stuff, but we're gonna be all right. We're
Yeah.
definitely gonna be all right. And Todd Bowles, we trust.
No doubt. Okay, and I'm glad you said that. That's your guy. I'll be full transparency with you. We did a football episode. Because High Off the Glass, we focus on cannabis and basketball, but we talk all sports and current events. And I did a football episode before the playoffs started, and I went in on your boy. I can't stand Todd Bowles. I am happy that brother is a head coach somewhere, because like you said, there are not too many black and brown folks at all, especially in this last coaching cycle. You got 10 openings, and not one goes to an African American. That is disgusting. But I think Todd needs to get the hell out of there. I do not like him as a coach. You had the greatest quarterback ever, and he sucked all the emotion and all the gravitas that y'all had after winning that championship. He sucked it all out of that team with his lack of emotion. And who should have been the head coach? And I'm surprised you never said this on your show. Maybe you had, and I just missed it. How is Byron Leftwich not y'all head coach? Like he was. I mean, I know he was a quarterback for the Jags, but he was an OC when y'all won it. That man should be a head coach, or he should be a head coach somewhere in that league. I'm just pissed off that he's not there, and Todd gets on my nerves.
Well, let
Oh,
me ask you a question.
yes, sir.
Why does Todd Bowles get on your nerves?
Todd gets on my nerves because it just seems like even when he that even that press conference, Mr. Brown, where he was upset and cussing, he still was low key. And see, it's like how can you be upset but you're still quiet and and they need to figure it the f out and and this is their livelihood and this is their effing job and you need to but you still sound so mundane. You sound like Tony Dungy if he took a downer. Like I just that's what I don't get on Todd, man. That's what I don't get
Oh,
with him.
that's just his demeanor. And I think at the end of
Get
the
it.
day, he's going to be judged if a situation where if he was out loud, he was so aggressive, oh my God, he's out of control. So, I
Right.
mean, it can go so many different ways. And look, that man was with the Jets, and the Jets are the Jets, right? He was
Right.
there.
Right.
Again, defensively, the team was very talented, but offensively, they didn't have the support system in there,
Not
right?
at
And,
all.
and
Yeah.
I
It's
look
the
at the fact
Jets.
is that, okay, yeah, Brady comes back, and look, Brady even admitted that the fact is that he was going through some situations in
Yeah.
regards to his marriage.
Yep.
It was on tops.
Yep.
That wasn't sharp. They still made the playoffs,
Mhm.
and they had a situation where, again, on that untimely blitz, I go against it and say, yeah, that wasn't a great thing that Foles did. The
Mhm.
blitz and Cooper Cup catches the pass, and now the Rams move on and they beat the Buccaneers. It was
Mhm.
an incredible run. So I mean, to win the division as long as he has the Buccaneers have, and
Mhm.
under him, I mean, it takes both sides, right? Keep in
Mhm.
mind, he's lost three offensive coordinators, right? He
Mm.
goes from Dave Canellis, he gets it 1 year removed, he gets a job with the Panthers. Same thing with Liam Cohen. 1 year
Mhm.
removed, he gets the job with the Jags.
Yeah.
And then they tried it again this past season. It didn't work out. So
Right.
I think it's really interesting where he gets all the blame, but
Mhm.
not enough of the credit. But yet the fact is, he didn't draft these players. He
Right.
didn't sign these players in free agency.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball. And let's be honest, Baker Mayfield started off hot. He
Right.
endured a lot of injuries. Mike Evans was injured.
Yeah.
He was missed a lot of the time.
Godwin. Yep.
Yeah, Godwin,
Mhm.
and then so forth and so on, even
Mhm.
Bucky Urban.
Mhm.
So to have it end the way it ended, I totally get it. Look, I was in the stadium when they lost that game on a third and 20, 23 or whatever
Right.
against the Atlanta Falcons, and they lost that game. I was
Oh.
there.
Oh
It's
my
hard.
God.
It
Yeah.
really is hard.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're as fans, we can get very emotional. But at the end of the day, you got to really look at this team and say, look, it's not like he's gotten the opportunity to really get big time free agents. Look
Mhm.
who they've gotten in the free agency moves they've made.
Yeah.
They're coming in with a lot of guys that they got to be able to develop and
Mhm.
got to really hit. And
Mhm.
so it's a lot of things that I think a lot of the times fans we will overlook and say, oh, well, you know what? He should get all the blame
Mhm.
and all these things when at the end of the day, he's not making the decisions on free agents and all
Right.
this other stuff.
Right.
That's ownership. So,
Yeah.
again, I'm gonna give him some grace because again, Baker Mayfield and then what he was able to do, the transition from Tom Brady to,
Mhm.
to Baker Mayfield,
Mhm.
it hasn't been a smooth one, but
Right.
again, I'm gonna keep the faith.
No
And
doubt.
everybody's entitled to their opinion.
I get it. I get it, and I love for you saying that. That's bringing some nuance to this conversation that I didn't have, so I appreciate that. And you got to tell me this too: how a Harlem kid become a Tampa Bay fan? What?
Hey man, let me tell you
What?
something. When I saw so back then, I remember that when you live in the New York tri-state market, you only get the Jets and Giants, and I could not stand just watching the Jets and Giants. And I always felt compelled to say, man, I want to watch some of the best games available.
Right.
And at the same time,
Right.
I was a Florida State football fan. I was familiar with Derek Brooks. I was familiar with Warren Sapp. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I see this coach that looks somebody like me. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, wow, you
Yeah.
got to support a man that looks like me. And granted, yeah, Art Shell was there before. I thought it was
Oh,
always
he was?
important.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, well, Art Shell, obviously was one of the first African American head coaches.
Oh, yeah,
But
the
I think
Raiders.
clearly,
Yep.
with Tony Dungy being there and really just I fell in love with it. I was like, man,
Yeah.
he's reviving his team and his program, and he waited so long for his opportunity.
No doubt.
And I just fell in love with it and said, hey man, let's get this thing going. And granted, you know what, that bad call by the official against the Rams when they were in St. Louis, troll and stuff like that. I mean,
Right.
that still bothers me, man.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised you stuck with him after they screwed over Tony and brought what you call it in like that from Oakland. That was crazy.
You know why?
He won with Tony's team.
Yeah, and the thing is, Tony took them as far as they could go, right? And I mean, there was like in Philly, there was just no excuse. Like they couldn't figure out what to do with the quarterback position and offensively. And I tell you, they have a great documentary series on Amazon about the Buccaneers. And
wow.
It really was revealed where they talked to Tony about making some changes with the offensive coordinator. He was against it. At first, he was with it. And then all of a sudden, after 1 year, they had success. And he let the guy go. I believe it was Les Steckel.
Oh.
And it just really spoke volumes to the fact that, look, just couldn't beat Philadelphia. Philadelphia owned us, and just all those things. And, the struggles of being able to, if we were able to just have some type of hope. I mean, look, that Bert Emanuel, it was a catch they ruled as an incomplete pass.
No doubt.
In that game against the St. Louis Rams and stuff. I think his fortunes would have changed if we would have been able to win that game because that defense was dominant.
It was.
One of the best of all time.
It was.
But at the end of the day, it just ran its course, and John Gruden was an offensive-minded guy, came in there, was able to beat the Eagles and win the Super Bowl. So,
Right.
I mean, I always give an opportunity to see exactly if they made the right decision when they make the decision. And it so happens that it was the correct one. And look, Tony went on, have success in Indianapolis, and the Buccaneers has continued on.
That's awesome. I love how you breaking down your team. Mr. Brown, this was outstanding. Real quick before we get out of here, I gotta mention this is one segment that I do on my show, and I love doing it. It is basically today's Black History moment. Today, 1999, believe it or not, Maurice Ashley becomes the world's first class grandmaster in chess. First black man to be a grandmaster in chess. That happened today in 1999. So major shout out to him. And we lost an icon last week. The funeral was everything with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I did not do a show last week, so I have to mention it today. I'm going to talk about it next week, y'all, when I don't have an esteemed guest like I have today, because I have some thoughts on that funeral, and especially the speeches that that our politicians gave. So I'm gonna talk about that next week. But major shout out to Roland Martin for having that on his network. If you guys don't, please either subscribe or patronize that brother. That brother could use the support because he is the only real black news network that we have in this country, and we definitely need it now. Mr. Brown, this was everything, bro. I have a NBA sports trivia game that I wanted to play with you, but we ran out of time. I hope I can have you back. What do you think about you coming back on the show?
Hey man, listen, you made you said, hey man, you got to start responding to people on social media and IG, and you know what? I took heed to that.
You did.
So all you have to do, brother, is just let me know. I just say, first and foremost, man, hey, I love what you're doing here, man. And one of the things that I've always said, that even going from a podcast to being on Sirius XM, it was always important, man, to try to reach back, because there's so many talented people out there that cover these sporting events and really provide tremendous insight on the game. And that's what we really need. We need to have less arguing and really, really demeaning people, and more of just respecting people's views and opinions, and give the opportunity to see things from their perspective. And then we can disagree. But I want to say that, man, you know what? Appreciate all the love and support that you have given to the Bottom Line Sports Show over the course of time, man. And it would be my pleasure and honor to come back on in the future, man. All you got to do, reach out, say the word. Let's go ahead and make it happen. And definitely let's do it let's do it around the playoffs or whatever, man. Hit me up and let me know. And definitely, man, continued success in all you do. Oh, I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We will definitely do that. Y'all hear it. The brother's down to come back. I'm going to hit you up. I'm thinking maybe late April, maybe like after the first week of the first round. That's when I would love to have you on because I want to have your opinion. Tell the folks where they can find your show.
Hey, it's right now, Rick Mahorn and I, the Bottom Line Sports Show, is on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/the B Line Sports Show. So that's B as in boy, LINE Sports Show on YouTube. We have a new show up every Tuesday this week. We're going Wednesdays. For the next couple of Wednesdays, we're gonna have the next couple of weeks. We're gonna have Wednesdays, so definitely check it out. Subscribe to the channel, support,
Yes,
and you definitely will not be disappointed at all.
Oh, they will not. You will not. That show is outstanding. The brother has a voice for radio and a face for TV. Mr. Brown, this was awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate
I appreciate you, man. All the best. Oh, I appreciate you, brother.
Right on, bro. Be safe. I'll hit you up. Thank you.
Okay. Peace.
Peace. We gone. Deuces. What an episode. Man, that was so dope having that brother on, man. Gerald Brown is outstanding. Make sure you guys check his show out. Thank you for rocking with me for this last little hour and a half. We're done. I'll be back next week. I got to go bowl. Deuces. Woo!